Good morning and welcome to D.I.V.E, Diversity, including various ethnicities. Today, we are going to focus on the family business, real
Mhm.
estate legacy. I am Iris Owens, your host, and I hope that you all are having a wonderful beginning of the week. And on the line with me is my wonderful co-host. Good morning, Jessica. How are you?
Good morning. Happy Monday.
Yes, thank you. And we have a wonderful guest today. So, guys, we're
Yeah.
going to dive in. Good morning, Robert. We are so happy that you are joining us today.
Good morning.
And so, Robert is a top producing agent with the Historic College Park and Cascade office of
Ooh.
Berkshire Hathaway. And so, I'm not going to steal any of Robert's thunder. I'm going to let Robert give all of his accolades on his own because I don't want to mess any of them up. But Robert, again, thank you so much for joining us today, and we're going to jump right in. So we'll start with the most obvious, so how did you end up here? How did you get into real estate?
Um, it's a unique story, and I almost feel like I had no choice. My mother was actually pregnant with me when I was studying for my broker's license, or when she was studying for her broker's license, she was pregnant with me. So
Wow.
Wow.
I technically say, 39 years. Um, I've been in real estate 39 years. I'm only 38 years old, but I've been
Yes.
in 39 years. And so I just maybe that started it, or maybe it was going on appointments with my parents
Hmm.
when I was a little kid in the back of my mom's Volvo, and babysitters and all that kind of stuff wasn't a thing. So I had to go look at houses too. So somewhere between there, I fell in love with real estate and made the decision to make that my career, my life, and my passion.
Okay. Awesome. So just one quick question. Did you work anything else in your life or you have always been a realtor?
So I joke and I tell people that my only real job ever was being a veterinary assistant in high school.
Okay.
Um, so I had, I love few things, but those few things I love them hard. And so one of the first things was, just dogs. My grandmother got me a dog in middle school,
Hmm.
and I read books on training and just I have a thing for German Shepherds. And so when it came time to get my first job and get a little extra money as a teenager,
Yes.
uh, 11th and 12th grade, I was a veterinary assistant at the local vet up the street from where I
Okay.
live.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, for those who are watching, this is Robert Allen of the Robert Allen team.
Hmm.
So um, now that we know that real estate is it's just through and through your blood. It's all that you know, pretty much is all that you've ever done. With that
Mhm.
being said, how has real estate influenced your life? How has it impacted your life to get you to the point where you are now as the Robert Allen of the Robert Allen team?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, real estate's had a huge impact on my life because, obviously it's what my parents did, and so it influenced me. But I think more importantly, it was how my parents used real estate. So one of the first lessons I had in faith was, I think it was either ninth or 10th grade, a couple of weeks before school, and I'm walking around the campus, and one of the basketball coaches sees me, and they're like, "Hey man, what are you doing here? I heard you weren't coming back." And so I went to a private school, cost a
Mhm.
lot of money. And my parents had money for me to go get my books, for me to go get some clothes, but it hadn't paid the tuition yet. Well, little did I know that my dad had found a property for about $40,000, got the woman to agree to sell it to him for $40,000. He went out and found a buyer that was willing to pay $80,000 to then renovate it and then go try to sell it for $180,000. So, my dad was an investor as well,
Mhm.
owned multiple real estate properties and stuff like that. But that's how he paid for tuition that year. 2 weeks before school started, was able to come up with $40,000, pay a few bills, pay my tuition, and pay my sister's college tuition, who was at NYU at the time. And it taught me a lot about faith and how
Mhm.
you have to move forward and keep pushing even when things look difficult. And especially as a realtor,
Mhm.
it's difficult. Things look bad for your clients and stuff like that, but you got to keep pushing. You got to have faith. and you got to be creative and think outside the box. So that's one of the ways that real estate's really impacted me, in that um, if you know what to do with real estate, the tips, the tricks, the ideas, or the ambition and the courage to get out there and try it, whether it's through sales or investing, it has an impact on your life. It has an impact on the options and possibilities that are available to you for success. I think it's the integral key in anyone's life for success. You got to have a roof over your head.
Right.
And okay,
Yes.
well, how can I make this roof over my head help me advance in life?
Mm-hmm.
That's
I
awesome.
love that. I love that. Who would have ever thought that you were trying to figure out how your tuition was going to get paid, but your dad was already 2 steps ahead of that. He had already been thinking,
Right.
like, not only am I going to purchase this, I already have a buyer who's going to buy it from me. So he
Mhm.
already knew what he was getting ready to do and be able to flip
Mhm.
that rather quickly to, like you say, pay bills, pay your tuition, and also pay tuition for your sister. You are married. You have 2 beautiful children.
Mhm.
Are you going to push real estate onto your children?
Yes and no. Um, I think one of the things that's interesting is I didn't graduate college. I only spent 3 semesters in college.
Mm-hmm.
I got licensed at the age of 18. I graduated high school May 11th. May 13th, I was in class to get my real estate license. July 1st, 2002, or not two, yeah, 2002. July 1st, I passed the state exam. I knew what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mhm.
but for my kids, my goal is to be in a position to empower them to get that head start. So obviously being able to pay for college. But then if for whatever reason, if they're responsible, hardworking, committed to their goal, their passion, similar to what I was,
Mhm.
being in a position to help them start their careers in whatever it is. And obviously, you encourage college, you encourage education,
Right.
but at the end of the day, in today's society, it's not the ultimate key to success.
Right.
It's the
Absolutely.
character that it takes to learn how to study and get through college that's important, more
Right.
than the degree, depending upon what you actually want to do. So my short answer is no, I'm not going to push it on him. I do take my son on appointments with me. I do have him work with me when I do like video production and stuff like that. Sometimes he's my cameraman. It's my
Good.
fondest memories is working with my dad, whether it was picking up a hammer and working on an investment property or just seeing him work in the office. Um, so he's exposed to it. I enjoy it. I love it when he loves doing what I do. Or he's
Mm-hmm.
been on a couple of appointments and has been real excited about it. And this is a cool house.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens with him. We'll see. My daughter's just about to turn 3. We'll see what happens with her, but they'll be exposed, but it won't be pushed on.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
But
Good.
I think the other thing though is I am going to teach them the importance of ownership and
Mhm.
how to do things with real estate and why you own it. So I've had those conversations with my son about we have a mortgage, we don't pay rent, and
Mhm.
what that does for us, and how
Right.
the goal is one day we'll move and we'll rent that house out. And I kind of explained to him, we might use this house to pay for your college.
Mhm.
Exactly.
We might use this house to pay for your sister's wedding
Mhm.
because it's going to become an investment property.
Right.
So, Robert, a lot of what you have said is so relevant, but I think sometimes when people come into being a realtor, do you think that there needs to be more expansion of when you come into this business to say, I'm not just a realtor? Because there's so many other avenues in real estate, and you have mentioned pretty much all of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Investing, your father flipped a house back when that was probably not even the greatest thing, right? He bought a house, flipped the house, had a buyer, and then and sold it. And I'm saying, I think sometimes when we come into this business, we have tunnel vision. What would be your, do you think it's better to have all of those multiple things and really working them as opposed to just sticking to I'm a realtor and that's all I do?
Good question.
Yeah, I think it's important to have a singular focus. It's important to have ambition, but not I want to do this, 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 and this. For example, some people I want to work buyers, sellers, investors, renters. I want to do it all.
Mhm.
Have a singular focus, a singular direction. You'll pick up other stuff along the way. So for my father, as an example, who became I think 1 year was the #1 salesperson in all of DeKalb County, who went on to start his own office with a franchise, who went on to, I remember at the kitchen table brainstorming session, and he came up with Star 9000, RG Allen Realty. Man, I'm gonna create my own brand.
Mhm.
To owning office parks and over 60 properties from commercial to residential, to being the first person, one of the first people to invest and flip properties in downtown Decatur in the 80s before Decatur was Decatur. Um, he had one purpose: being in Vietnam, almost dying, being shot at. He made a promise to God that, hey, get me back to America. I promise I'm gonna work as hard as I can to be successful and take care of my family. That
Right.
was his purpose. And real estate was just an avenue to fulfill that purpose and that singular vision. So, you can have a diverted focus and you won't really become successful. Um,
Mhm.
if you have that singular focus, pick up whatever comes along with it along the way, but don't necessarily uh, set the goal to have so many different avenues. Just pick up what works with you. When new agents start, one of the first things I tell them is I challenge them to think of 12 different lead sources. Your goal is to sell X number of homes. Your goal is to do this and do that, something singular. But have these 12 lead sources because you want to touch them along the way, along your path. And you'll pick up which ones, okay, I do like buyers. Okay, I don't like buyers. Okay, I do like for sale by owners. I don't like for sale by owners. But at the same time, you're moving forward in one direction. What is your goal? Is it to make a career? Is it to take care of your family? Do you want to own your schedule? Single mothers love real estate because they can, be there for their kids and also have a career. What is that singular focus? And then you'll pick up what you need to pick up along the way, as long as you're passionate, committed, and willing to put in the hard work to reach whatever that goal is.
I appreciate you saying that, because a lot of people look at realtors, especially social media really has really unfortunately put realtors in an unrealistic light almost,
Yeah.
to the point where people are looking at social media and people are looking at realtors and they're just seeing the end result.
Correct.
They're seeing the happy pictures. They're seeing, clients getting the keys or whatever the case may be. They're seeing realtors all dressed up nice and driving nice vehicles. But the part that unfortunately is not being shown is those long nights, those early mornings, those clients that are frustrating, those buyers who have unrealistic expectations for a challenge budget. That's my way of calling it, a challenge budget. You see that? So for you being someone that has been in this industry this long, not only have you been in the industry this long, as a licensed agent, but as the son of two brokers, you've been seeing this all of your life. What gems would you give to someone who's watching right now and thinking about getting into real estate? What would you tell them?
The first thing is you can't be scared to work. It will work if you work it.
Yeah.
It will work if you work it.
It will work if you work it.
The second thing is that the top 10% of the agents do 90% of the business.
Say that again, Rob. Say that again.
The top 10% of the agents do 90% of the business.
Can you explain that?
So, we did 52 transactions last year, whereas another individual agent may have done 5. Because out of the 57 possible transactions, we did 52 of them. So what that basically means is that the remaining 90% of agents are fighting for 10% of the business, and their numbers are going to be lower. Whereas the top 10% of the agents have 90% of the business and their numbers are higher. And it's the real power behind acknowledging and knowing that is that you want to be in the top percent, top 10%. Well, the way that you be in the top 10% is you do what the top 10% does. Because a lot of people get into real estate and they join the wrong groups, they make the wrong friends, unfortunately, sometimes even the wrong brokerage. And they don't get to be around the success. They don't get to be exposed to what works. And they have to figure it out on their own. And it doesn't work. And then, life is real, bills are real, and it can't last. Whereas, have that mindset. I want to be in the top 10%. Let me do what the top 10% do, because it doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, and all that kind of good stuff, or even how you talk. There are realtors who are successful in English isn't even their first language.
Right.
But it matters if you do the work. It'll work if you work, and having the mindset of, I'm going to be in the top percent. What did the top 10% do? What time did the top 10% get to the office? How many hours a day did the top 10% prospect? Because if you do those things, you'll eventually become the top 10%, and you won't be fighting for the scraps. You'll be the first at the table.
That's very powerful, Robert. I was going to ask you, because I think when we come into this business, we're all asked the question, what's your why? And I think many times people forget that that why is going to change over the career of your business, over the time of your business. Because in the beginning, you may have a young family, right? You have young children. They're not in college yet. They're only in daycare. But daycare is expensive. And we know this, childcare is expensive. But as time goes on, as your children grow up, the expenses become more. They don't become less, right? Because if you're going to send them to college, if they're going to go to private school, all those things cost money and you have to invest. But then once your children are done, then what's the next thing for you and your family and your spouse or your significant other? And so your why is forever changing. And I think sometimes we have to remember that, that you're not just working for today, you really are working for days beyond days beyond days. So kind of don't get stuck. So I like what you said about it'll work if you work it, because there are those days where, so I also want to go back to, so your team had 52 transactions. So if we equate, that's like saying, so you all had a transaction every week. I'm sure it was not every week, but you had a transaction, because there are only 52 weeks in the year.
Exactly.
I mean, so
amazing.
Robert, how do you get to, if we said we were going to break it down, how do you get to 52 transactions in a year?
My foundation and thing that I promote the most is your sphere of influence. Who do you know? My favorite stat is that 1 in 7 of the people you know are going to buy or sell, or know someone who's going to buy or sell in the next 12 months. So you've got to be able to engage with that sphere of influence in a way that they keep you top of mind. They think that you're an expert and that they would trust you with their real estate needs. So that's the extreme vast majority of the business is either a referral. One of the things that humbled me last year is an agent who works on the north side of town. Her nephew wanted to buy in Decatur, 600-ish thousand range or whatever on the buyer and whatnot. And she's just, 45-minute drive away from Decatur or whatnot. But she heard through the grapevine, through Berkshire, that, I know that area, I know the city and stuff like that. And she reached out to me and referred me the business for her own nephew. And she's licensed in the same company. That was very humbling. And I was super proud to help them. But that just goes into, that's someone who knew of me.
Right.
And my reputation.
Right.
And gave me an opportunity. So from that example to, social media, to obviously the people that the last closing I just had, she was the owner of the daycare I was at when I was a little kid.
Oh, wow.
And, people don't think about it. Oh, my friend's not buying. Oh, my family's not buying. Well, the owner of the daycare I went to,
Right.
third closing with her. Or the client I was out with this weekend, $5 million properties, looking at doing some estates and stuff like that.
Mhm.
They're a repeat client, but we went to high school together. First house I showed them, I sold them the same floor plan I live in. It's 7 houses down from me, so it was like a $300,000 purchase, $200,000 purchase when I sold it to them or whatever. But the
Right.
beautiful thing in life is that you progress in your careers and stuff like that.
Mhm.
That was somebody that through social media and other mediums I was able to keep in touch with over the years, even though
Right.
she was 3 years younger than me in high school. More people than you know. One
Right.
of the things I even say is, who are you giving money to?
Mm-hmm.
You need to give you a referral. One of my favorite stories is of an agent who was going to a barber and he's paying him all this money to cut his hair and make sure he knew he was in real estate and all this kind of stuff. And then he looked back a year later and he hadn't received a referral. He switched barbers.
Mm.
I'm not going to pay you and you're not going to support my business and
Right.
what I'm.
That makes
Right, I'm
sense.
supporting yours, but you're not
Right.
supporting me. Oh,
Right.
wow.
Who's your
Never looked
gent?
at it like that.
Who does your dry cleaning? The guy I take my dry cleaning to wants to buy a gas station. It's random that Meredith Cleaners in Decatur is where we went when I lived in Decatur growing up. And his
Mm-hmm.
family owns that. And he's got the dry cleaner up the street from the office over across next to Publix. And we just got to talk and build a relationship. I got his number. More people than you think you
You
do.
think.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's the foundation. Get 200 people in your sphere, 1 in 7. That should account for 28 sales. And my stats for my 200 and some odd people that are in my sphere, and one of my goals this year is to double my sphere.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
You can't beat that. And then my multi-million-dollar client this weekend called me Thursday evening, or was it Wednesday evening? I was on the way out the door, got in a little trouble with my wife because I took a 10-minute call, something said pick up, and she's like, Robert, we're moving back to Atlanta. Da, 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 da. Oh yeah, our price range is up to 5.5. Are you free on Saturday?
I sure am.
Yes, I am.
We've been researching properties and all that kind of good stuff. Here's the list of what we want. We just want to take a look at before
Wow.
we do the offer.
You can't beat that.
You know what
That's
I do love, Robert, is that it's something else that you have imparted into me today is that how you don't just do this business, you know your business, you have your stats. I didn't
Oh,
think
yeah.
that's very important, right? Because that makes the dollars and the cents make sense. If that,
Makes sense.
because if we're working instead of just going out here or thinking, okay, I'm just gonna sell to whomever comes to me or whomever says that they want to buy from me or whatever. But if I'm putting my business plan together with those stats and those numbers, it helps me to know what I need to do to execute the goal that I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
Very much so. Very
Yeah.
much so. Because what I got from what you just said was people lie, but numbers don't. At the end of the day,
Correct.
your numbers speak for themselves.
Absolutely.
And I can relate, I am a newer agent, got my license in 2020, happened to join Berkshire at the same office as Mr. Allen. And I remember the first time I reached out. I remember I reached out to you just to ask a question. Like I literally text the question and you didn't text me back. You called me. And from then, I knew that, okay, well, this is somebody that if I have questions in regards to what's going on, he is willing to help. And from there, you introduced me to your sister, who is now my broker, also now your broker. So I'm appreciative for that. Like I say, as a newer agent, all veteran agents weren't as receptive or willing to impart, any knowledge into a newer agent, and they busy. And I get that, nothing against them for doing that. But the fact that you did that, the fact that you sacrificed just a little bit of your time really made a big difference to me. It really opened my eyes. Therefore, now I'm trying to do the same with any agent that comes behind me. I always let them know anything that I can do, any question that you have, if I can answer it, feel free. give me a call, text me, email me, whatever the case may be, because of agents like you and Iris and other, you know, veteran agents who were willing to be there for me. So now that we have that out of the way, how does it feel to be under the leadership of your sister as your broker? Because we don't see that too often.
Yeah, you know, it's by God's design, but I would have never imagined.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also humbling. And I think the most humbling thing about it for me is, yes, my dad was my first broker.
Mm-hmm.
And now to have my sister as a broker, I mentioned, you know, joining my dad and picking up the hammer on different projects. Well, it was a few times we went over to a property on Memorial Drive, and we were trying to install walls. It was my first time seeing metal framing in a commercial building or whatever. I think he had a lease on it and all that kind of good stuff. But the plans were for that to be the second location for Star 9000 RJ Allen Realty. And that location never got off the ground.
Okay.
And here it is, all of these years later, that my sister's the managing broker over 2 offices, not 1 but 2.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's humbling because if you truly have a vision and a gift from God, it's not for you. If you can do it in your lifetime, if you can do it in a month, if you can accomplish it, well, that's cool, that's good, but that's not really something from God.
Right.
And so to see the vision and passion that my dad had for growth and expansion to be, you know, followed through on and accomplished by my sister, you know, I'm very proud I have my dad's name. I'm a junior. But, you know, it's a family thing and all that kind of good stuff. So I think that's the most humbling in that, you know, my dad is living on through my sister's efforts and the things that she's doing.
Yes.
I think another thing that is very humbling is one of my proudest memories and moments with my dad was he was always going to Piccadilly, went on Southwest
Your
Account.
dad too?
Yeah, Piccadilly. And even on his birthday, we try as a family to go to Piccadilly on his birthday. And so can't tell you how many times someone paid for our meal. Agents would come along and say, you know, thank you, because he helped get them started in their career. Agents, there was one agent, it was like, they got into real estate, but they're like, yeah, your dad sold me my first home. I still own it. It's paid off.
Oh, wow.
And with my sister, she never wanted to be a broker. She only wanted to mentor agents. She only had approached management about, hey, love to mentor, love to help. And they created and pushed and, you know, got her to eventually accept this opportunity. But at the end of the day, that's her passion. It's my passion, is how can I help other agents? We have an unfair advantage, Wendy and I, in that we grew up around this. We had coaching since we were little kids.
Absolutely.
And I think what you mentioned, Jessica, speaks to the culture of what you want to look for in a company, and that people share. Those that are higher will help uplift you to come higher too. What the standards are and all that kind of good stuff. And so her and I, that's why I started a team. It's because I was already mentoring and helping people anyways. And so for Wendy, it's, you know, she's successful because that's her heart, is to mentor and help. And so it's funny. I want to help the office and help my sister, and then she wants to help me reach my goals and take care of my family. And so it's just a really good back and forth. And that actually leads me to something I did want to say. And, you know, not every realtor is like this. And some people are able to become successful with the different mottos and stuff like that. But I think the best motto is the principle of give and it shall be given. Pressed down, shaken together.
And runneth over.
I mentioned the top 10% will do 90% of the business. But one of the things that really affects agents, they have a scarcity mentality. And that stops them from feeling like I'm going to do the effort to do what I need to do. When it's really not about you. Zig Ziglar said, help enough people get what they want, and you will ultimately eventually get everything that you want.
Wow.
So, you know, my client that bought that first house for 200,000 or 300,000, where I've got another client that I helped them get a house for $100,000 with $100 down payment through a HUD program that my mom taught me all the tips and tricks on. helped them get into another house for 180,000, which was like 20, 30,000 undervalue. They had equity. I helped them make $100,000 when they sold that, and then the last house they just bought was 700,000. Well, you know, a lot of people get into real estate and they say, "I'm not selling a $100,000 house."
Why not?
Yeah,
You are
exactly.
so right about that, Robert.
Why
They
not? I
want
mean, but
big
you're
check, the
right.
big
People
money.
think that, you know, but
Yeah.
that like you just said, that $100,000 buyer is now a
Uh,
$700,000 buyer.
Yes.
We all
yeah.
have to start somewhere, you know,
Start somewhere
and
and help.
when I have these conversations with new buyers, especially my passion is first time home buyers, you know,
Mhm.
because, you know, for me, that was where my heart was. So I knew that's what I wanted to do. Now I work with everybody, but my passion is first time home buyers. And I try to explain to them because for whatever reason, I don't know what the mentality is. People think when I purchase my first house, it's my last house.
Mhm.
I'm like, no, that may not be the case. We call it a starter home for a reason. You know, it may just be the stepping stone to get you to where you need to be. Or like, you know, what you just said earlier, it may become that investment property
Right.
that pays for your child's college tuition, that pays for your daughter's wedding. You know, don't get blindsided by, I have to have this ridiculous house from the beginning. Most people will tell you that's not how it happened. You know, so it's just a matter of explaining that and really reaching the community and teaching them and almost like reprogramming their mind in what real estate really is.
Yeah.
So,
But it boils down to helping.
yeah,
No
we have
matter
work
who
to
your
do.
target market is, can
Mhm.
you help someone?
Exactly.
And so it's not about you. And the
Right.
success that I've had hasn't been because I'm trying to do me for me. It's
Mhm.
been a passion to
Right.
help others.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. Most realtors, and I know Iris will probably say the same thing. By the time we get to the closing table and by the time we actually get our check, if you actually count the amount of hours, gas, mileage, you understand, it's not all that it's cracked up to be. You have to really want to do this. This has to be something that's in you, or you're not going to be able to sustain. You're not going to continue doing it if it's not a passion.
Yeah.
So I can see the passion in you. I can see the passion in Wendy, your sister, which is why I am grateful to be under her tutelage. And I see the passion in a lot of the agents at Berkshire, you know, even though this is, you know, diving into various ethnicities, but at the end of the day, we are all Berkshire agents. And Berkshire just has that sense of family, first of all.
Yes.
And then it allows you to not only be great, but be great in your own way. Like no one is overtaking the next person. You're doing your own thing. And that's why I think, you know, at the end of the day, why I really, really enjoy, you know, working with Berkshire. Even when other people continue to call, I know they're calling you, Iris. I know they're calling you, Robert. They see your stats. So people are always
They're
calling.
calling you too, Jessica.
They are. But, you know, and I just kind of cut them right off at the knees. Like, I'm not interested. I am happy where I am, you know, because when you have a sense of belonging and you're comfortable, it makes a difference to be able to do the job effectively. So I appreciate you, Robert, like I said, for, you know, being there for me. I appreciate you for introducing me to my now broker, Wendy Allen.
That's
Your
awesome.
big sister. But it has just been, it's been amazing to not only see your accomplishments, hear about your accomplishments. You all represent legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this month has really been about. It's been about legacy as far as the family business. And the Allen family is a perfect example of what we've been talking about this month. It's the family business and the legacy of it all. So kudos to you. My hat goes off. I wish you nothing but success, but throw a little more than 10% my way, okay?
No. Come join me in the top 10. How about that?
Yeah, I was gonna say exactly. That's what he's like. Come on over here to the 10 side, and then you don't have to work.
Come on over here to the 90% side and you be okay. I'm working on it. But no, I
Oh my
appreciate
gosh.
y'all. I appreciate it. This has been good because I mean, I don't really know if people really know, your story. And I think this is going to be eye-opening for a lot of people. They may see, how well you work, and they see, all of the accolades that you receive, but they really don't know the backstory. You have been doing this since
He was doing it before
inception.
he knew he was doing it.
Right. I mean, it's in you.
You know how
It
they
is
say
in you.
you talk to your baby in the womb. So it was already
It was in you. It was in you. You came out talking about transactions and closing and earnest money and due diligence. You came out talking.
I
So,
love it.
I mean, it was nothing else for you to do but to become a realtor. So,
Well, I
I
think
believe.
there is something else that I think that would be key for agents to know, because not everybody starts and is able to be successful.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
an important part of my story is, yeah, I got licensed. Yeah, went to a college preparatory school, so I kind of didn't have the courage to tell my parents I didn't want to be there. My dad had a stroke my third semester in college, and so took over his kind of book of business he had going on right then and there.
Mhm.
But ultimately, I became a glorified assistant for my mother.
Mhm.
Um, I bought my first house at 23. So in between my third semester at college and August of 23, I worked for my mom. I got
Mhm.
paid around $1,500 a month.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it was an amazing opportunity for me because I got to work alongside her and
Yes.
learn
Right.
and pick up the tips and tricks, and more importantly, build my confidence. And so I'm amazed by, like, for example, at Berkshire, I've never seen so many agents be so successful so quickly, because there's no way in hell with my personality that I would have been able to do that. But then, more importantly, 2003, bought my first house, feeling myself, oh, I got this. 2000, this was not 2003, at the age of 23, bought my first house, living in like Buckhead, Brookhaven area. I'm 23 years old, and it's 2007. Well, we know what happened in 2008.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yes.
And I went from making some money to 2008, I made 30,000 maybe. 2009, I made $7,000.
Mm.
It's a big
And
difference. Yeah.
thankfully, I didn't have a family and all that kind of good stuff. But it was in that season that I truly learned the things I needed to know about
Mm.
success as a realtor, because I mentioned it will work if you work it. I mentioned you
Right.
got to have a certain mindset and things of that nature. But yeah, your mindset is the biggest, most important thing.
Right.
It's easy for a lot of people that got into real estate are now leaving because it was easy back when
Mhm.
interest rates were 3%. Now you
Mhm.
have to actually
Mhm.
work.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
And figuring that out, like it's not work today and get paid in the afternoon. It's work today, tomorrow, next week, next month, and it's going to build and accumulate. And it's only
Exactly.
through understanding that, number one, my commitment to my career, regardless, because it's not about the money for me.
Right.
Um, but number two is having the right mindset to keep going, regardless of what's going on the outside world, regardless of how bad things got for me. I picked up and learned the importance of having a mindset of pushing forward and still working and figuring things out. If you fail the first time, pick yourself up, keep going, because it's only through that experience that I've been able to become successful. It's only been through that experience that I have true, actionable, real life things to share that help people so they don't have to make the same mistakes that I made to get
Right.
to the point where I'm at.
Robert, I could talk to you all day.
All day.
I could sit here and be like, okay, I've been writing down all the nuggets that you have dropped today, and they're not
Ooh.
they're not like they're not like, oh my God, I never thought about that. It is so just if you just take the time to, first of all, you started with faith. And regardless of whatever your faith may be, for those of you listening, faith is everything. Whomever you worship, you serve, but faith is everything, right? Because without faith, you're going to fall and fail. And without faith, when you fall and fail, you don't have the faith to help you get back up.
Right.
That's why faith is important. You need it to help you continue going on, even when you can't see the vision in front of you. So, Robert, all the things you said today just makes all great, good sense. And I hope that those who have tuned in, that you all share this information. Call Robert if you have a question. Because as Jessica has already confirmed, he is willing to assist you and to help you. And your big sister is my big sister now. She's not my broker, but she's still she's my other broker, even though I have a broker. That's no knocks to my broker. I love my broker, but Wendy is an amazing person. Robert, you're an amazing person. You guys are a dynamic team and you have so much knowledge. And so we just thank you all so much for what you have contributed to this and the examples that you are setting for those of us in this business to follow. So we really appreciate you so much.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
You're very welcome.
Anything you wanna add before
Your final
we
words.
let you go, because we know you have prospects and I mean we know you have work to do, so we don't want to hold you, but any last nuggets you want to share?
Last nuggets. Yeah, no, I think my motto in getting clear on the thing that I'm about is I'm passionate about helping others create wealth through real estate. So I'm trying to remind myself of that every day. Passionate about helping others create wealth through real estate. So for my clients, I mean, that's obvious in the things that I do. One thing I do that's probably different than other realtors is I have certain goals for how much money I want people to make each year. So I think last year I got to just under $3 million in seller profits last year. I would love to double that this year and help sellers make at least $6 million. But then also when it comes to agents or people that aren't clients or whatever, just, that's my passion. How can I help others create wealth through real estate?
Right.
Love that.
There you have it.
Yes.
There you have it. Thank you so much, Robert, for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Yes.
To come and share, those words of wisdom with us today.
Yes.
You're very welcome. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. You all have a wonderful week. Enjoy and go out and do business. Work hard.
It'll work if you work it.
It'll work if you
work it. Exactly.